Hi, welcome back to Betty Knits. This is my 5th episode, and this week I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do an entire little knitting pattern, and I'm going to make an Innocent hat for the big knit that Innocent do every year in aid of Age UK, which obviously is a brilliant charity. Every year Innocent get people to knit tiny little hats to put on their smoothie bottles, and then they send them to Innocent, they put them on their smoothies, and then every smoothie they sell wearing a little knitted hat, 25p goes to Age UK. It's a really nice kind of cyclical thing where people enjoy knitting them, they send them off, people enjoy buying them because they have a nice little hat. So here are some of the hats I've done so far. Because they're really quick and easy to make, and you can do one in an evening. Let's knit an Innocent hat. To begin with, all you will need are some needles, some wool, a colour of your choice, some scissors, and some sewing needles as well, or just one darning needle to put it together at the end. It's probably easier to do it with smaller needles and thinner wool than really chunky wool, because obviously you're trying to get a really dainty little hat, and that's going to be quite difficult to do if you've got massive chunky needles and really chunky wool as well. So better to do it on the thinner needles with the thinner wool. First of all, cast on 28 stitches. So once you've got 28 stitches on your needle, you then need to just knit the next 3 rows. So just knit 1, 2 and then 3. We've done our 3 rows, our 3 knitted rows. So that forms the bottom of your hat, and then make sure that it doesn't roll up too much, because there's that knitted edge at the bottom which keeps it nice and flat when it sits on top of that smoothie bottle. I'm now actually going to introduce another colour into my hat, because I think on this occasion I'm going to do it striped. So I'm going to introduce this nice grey colour. All that I'm going to do in order to add this grey in is to tie it to the wool that I already have coming off my needle here. I've knitted with my different colour into my hat. The thing that we have to remember with this pattern is really straightforward. You cast on 28 stitches, you knit 3 rows so that you've created the bottom of your hat and it sits nicely on top of the lid of the bottle, and then you knit a further 12 rows. Essentially that's the pattern. I'm going to knit back with my grey and then do 2 rows with the orange, 2 rows with the grey, 2 rows with the orange, until I've done my 12 rows. In this instance I'm going to do a stocking stitch, and I'm going to knit the first row and then purl the second row back. So that will mean that there'll be a wrong side and a right side, and the right side will be the nice kind of stocking flat stitch. There's a stocking stitch on this hat, so that's the kind of right side, and then that's the wrong side. So we're going for the same effect with this hat, but it's going to be stripy instead. And then for the last 2 rows you knit 2 stitches every single time, so that takes it from 28 stitches down to 14 because you're knitting 2 into 1, and then for the next row that takes it from 14 stitches down to 7. So all I've done on this side is I've done exactly the same thing. I've purled into every 2 stitches. So I've purled 2, purled 2, purled 2. So I've reduced it each time by for the first row knitting into every 2 stitches, and for the second row purling into every 2 stitches. So now I'm just going to cut these 2 bits of wool that I've got left over, leaving a fair amount, about that much, I think 30 centimetres, so that you can sew back into the hat. So cut both of the bits of wool, then at the top here I'm just going to tie those 2 bits of wool together to make sure it doesn't come unravelled. And now I'm going to snip one of them to be even shorter. Doesn't really matter which one, either one. So I'm going to snip the grey one, get rid of that bit of thread. Now with this one, with the end of this piece of thread, I'm going to put a needle on there. Got my nice little selection of needles. I'm going to pick a nice big darning needle, like that one. So I'm going to put the darning needle on the end of that piece of thread. Thread it on there, giving a little kind of 1.5 inches there of added wool. Now I'm going to push these off the end of the needle, leaving you with all those stitches. And now we're going to sew. So we've gone all the way through them all, and then pull it tight, and that's the top of your hat. So now turn it inside out. The wrong side is facing outwards, and then using your thread just sew it down the seam there, and make sure you capture any of these little loose threads. So I'm going to make sure that that one's captured, and this one, and the one at the top there. Make sure that you sew all of those into that seam as well, and then you can cut off any loose bits afterwards. Okay, so we've sewn down that line and we sewed in any loose bits that we had. I'm going to stitch up a little bit so that the loose end of this bit isn't right down here at the bottom. So I'm going to just do a couple of stitches up there. And then I'm going to tie a nice knot in it. Now you can snip off this loose bit of thread, turn your hat the other way around, and there we go, nice little hat. You could make a little bobble to put on the end, like I have done with this one. Knit a sweet little kind of bobbly spiral thing, like I have done with this one. That's essentially it. So you've cast on 28 stitches, you've done 3 rows of knits to get that little bottom bit there to make sure it doesn't curl up. Then you've done 12 rows of knits or pearls or whatever pattern that you want. So that's 12 rows. Then for the last 2 rows, you stitched 2 stitches into every one. So you've decreased by half each time, and then you just sew them together. Whoop. I've also realised I've inadvertently matched my hat to my outfit today, which is quite nice. So there we have it. That's how to knit a very quick and easy, innocent, tiny hat for Age UK. If anyone gets one of my hats, here are the ones that I've made. I'll be very excited to know where they ended up and who ended up getting one. So let me know if you see any of these on any of the smoothies in the shops near you. I'd love to hear any feedback, and as always, thank you very much for watching Betty Knits. It's been a joy. I'm starting to build up a bit of a Pinterest board on Christmas present ideas that you can make really quickly and easily. So go and check that out. There are links to all my Pinterest and everything under each of these videos. I'm on Pinterest, I'm on Instagram. Go and have a look. Share your knitting joy with me, bring some pleasure, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.